Obama.
Here we are. We are right, maybe 10 feet, Brian, in front of the president's vehicle. And you heard the announcement of his name and the reaction from the crowd at this point. An absolutely beautiful day for this occasion. And it is honestly a beautiful moment to look out and see a sea of people from, I can't say it enough, all walks of life here enjoying this moment of celebration for our nation. So we're hearing, Brian, you hear there the announcement of Vice President Joe Biden and Dr. Jill Biden as well. We're picking up speed a little bit, Brian, and we're waiting yet again for that big moment. The anticipation obviously building in hopes that the president and the first lady will make a little bit of a stroll on this nice Washington, D.C. day, Brian.
Thanks, Tamara. I also think this means you're Natalie Morales. We're near where you are.
Yes, that's... Yeah, Brian, actually, we just saw the motorcade go by, and as you heard Tamara talking about the crowds cheering, we saw that. Now we're seeing people quickly trying to run down a little bit further along the path as they break away from where they were to try to get another vantage point, to get another spot where they can perhaps see the president and the first lady perhaps emerge from the car, because that is what everybody is hoping for, is that money shot when the president and the first lady get out of the car. As you remember, they did it twice 4 years ago, so a lot of anticipation, people wanting to get that shot. And we remember that happened, I believe it was further down along the path that was on Freedom Plaza 4 years ago, and it happened right around there where the president got out of the car. So I imagine everybody trying to hustle over there to make sure they get that point of view. But a lot of people still sticking around for the parade, but as you see, a lot of people also moving to try to find another good spot where they can get in on the action. Brian?
Thank you, Natalie, and I recognize the uniforms of the New Jersey State Police right where you are, because when you grow up as a motorist in New Jersey, you learn to fear that color blue more than any other. Michael Beschloss.
And I'm sure you never had a run-in with
no, of course not.
police at all. At least motoring.
That's right. They have picked up a little speed here.
Yeah, they have. And, you know, exactly this part of Pennsylvania Avenue, I think our viewers could see on screen how beautiful it is. Wasn't always this way. 1961, when John Kennedy and Jackie Kennedy were riding back from John Kennedy's inauguration, he looked at those buildings, and lining this part of the avenue were tattoo parlors, very tawdry souvenir stores, and he gave a lot of serious attention to the redevelopment of Pennsylvania Avenue. Took a very long time, but what we're seeing on screen is the result.
He signed a young, promising man named Daniel Patrick Moynihan,
future senator from New York,
to that job, who really did transform. I'll add pawn shops to that list. It was a very seedy stretch of a beautiful city, and it's been completely reborn. David Gregory.
We got a glimpse of how well-positioned the Canadian Embassy is in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful building, and so our friends and allies,
our neighbors to the north, yes.
They are in a very good position, of course, and then a lot of people gathered, too, at the museum. There's the Canadian Embassy, and then next door is the museum, where there's ample opportunity for viewing as well. As you can see, people on the balconies. And, you know, it's quite a thing in Washington, as you can imagine. A lot of law firms along the route. Judges' chambers as well. In the United States Courthouse, who often host
You're saying there's parties going on
There
right
might
now?
be some parties.
There's beverages being consumed right now?
maybe professionally related, too.
Yeah.
And another thing there is the Willard Hotel, which is on the same side as an earlier Willard Hotel, which is where Abraham Lincoln stayed the night before he was inaugurated in 1861.
And whereas you no doubt know, the word lobbying came to be.
Indeed, which had a slightly happier connotation in those days than it often does these days. But the idea was that people would sit in the lobby and try to accost a senator or member of Congress. This is never done nowadays.
No, of course not.
Try to bend their ear to advance some of their own private interests.
And while we're tour guiding, and they passed by, but the Native American Museum is also a relatively new structure downtown that is so beautiful and great if you're visiting Washington.
You mentioned the museum. It was the idea of our late great friend Tim Russert to print the First Amendment on the front of that building. It's become ranked right up there among the top tourist destinations for good reason. When people come to visit this great city, they learn a lot about the news media there. But you're right, our neighbors to the north have a good piece of
fantastic piece of property.
I think they'd better keep their relationship with us if they want to keep that building, don't you think?
Willie Geist, they're coming by you.
Yep, those cheers you hear, the President and the First Lady just announced on the public address system behind me. He's making his way in that armored limousine known as the Beast, coming up our way. Jimmy Carter set a precedent in 1977 when he got out of that car with his wife Rosalind and his daughter Amy. A lot of people along this route expecting, hoping that the President will get out, perhaps give them a wave. I mentioned earlier, this is the exact spot outside the U.S. Navy Memorial where 4 years ago the President did get out of the limousine and say hello to some of the folks here who've been here before dawn when we got here to set up. A lot of people lined up along this line. Some pretty cool moments with this crowd. Brian, you talked about the kids being here. There's a young 6-year-old girl named Sage from Columbia, Maryland. I just watched her passed up about 5 rows by perfect strangers because they said she ought to see this. And here she is on the front row now, watching the Vice President, the President of the United States, and the First Lady of the United States pass her by. Obviously a day she won't soon forget. And now here he is, the President of the United States and the First Lady, to roars from this crowd, Brian.
And as we continue to point out, law enforcement, those are Utah State Troopers, some of whom saluting, others whose job it is to watch the crowd, and there's the President. And that is from Willie Geist's camera angle, is the kind of perfectly average camera angle, the picture that most people will get along this route. The glass that has to be so thick because it's bulletproof, heavily tinted green, but you do at least get to see the President.
So different from the old days when the President and First Lady would sit on a raised seat in one of those old Lincoln convertibles. Yeah. Absolutely. And you know, the other thing is that in terms of walking, and that goes all the way back to Thomas Jefferson, who felt that John Adams and George Washington in their inaugurations had gotten too regal, so he decided to strip it down, ride up the hill on his horse, and walk to show his closeness to the people. I think he missed a bet, though, because Jefferson was someone who felt that presidents should be very involved with members of Congress, and I think he underestimated the potential of inauguration to bring that about.
And I guess when we talk about the Jimmy Carter precedent, it was really during the limousine era, and also was known for its rare PDA among first couples. They held hands most of the route, and that wasn't always done. Tamron Hall, how are things in the motorcade?
Oh, things are fantastic, Brian. We're in front of the FBI headquarters, and you've seen, a series of reactions from people. I think one of the things that I am marveled at is how many people have iPhones and iPhone technologies. Right, here we go, Brian.
Heads up, Tamron.
The vehicles are being approached. The crowd is screaming. And, Brian, this is our moment. Here we go. There you have it. The First Lady of the United States and the President making their first exit from the vehicle as anticipated. And here we are, Brian. They're holding hands, as you can see, walking along this blue line that illuminates, for lack of a better description, the parade route. But there they are, this couple that we witnessed 4 years ago with their young children come to this town, and now the First Lady and the President making this walk the final time. From the distance that we see here, they are smiling. As you can see, they're waving, and the crowd, as we say, is going crazy right now, Brian. Enthusiastic, happy, and there are smiles as far as you can see, and cameras. I've never seen so many 6-year-olds with iPhones that can snap pictures on their own. It's just exciting, and it is just an inspiration to be here to watch these faces accept and embrace this first family.
Thank you, Tamron. We're all taking this in at the same time. We have a portable camera that's able to walk out ahead of the first couple, kind of revolve around them. That is the FBI building to the left.
Ryan, it's interesting as we watch these images and you reflect back 4 years ago, the newness of this couple, the cultural impact they were having, as well as the political impact, that has not really diminished, even though we're in a different place 4 years on. But it is striking, not to get into Michael's territory here, but the second time in our history we've had 3 consecutive 2-term presidents.
Absolutely.
So much political ferment, and yet that measure of